Robert Plank Show episode 19, how to create an email follow-up system that makes you sales and money on automatic pilot. Hey, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show. Whether this is your first time, 50th time, or you've been with us since the very beginning, I want to welcome you here, and we're going to talk today about making money and how to do this thing called having an automatic passive income that keeps bringing in traffic, leads, sales, all that good stuff while you sleep, and keeps churning in money while you sleep, because it's a really great place to be in when you've paid down all your debt, when you have this thing called a savings account, when you have more choices in life, when you can make more of a difference in life. And for you, whether that means retiring earlier, traveling more, getting rid of this obstacle, paying off that debt, paying some kind of student loan, paying some children's college fund, buying the kid a new car, whatever the heck it is, what we want to do is set up this thing called an internet business that makes money online. And so I don't know what your skill level is, but in previous shows we've talked about things like setting up an information product. You can sell things, having a sales letter so that people can see what it is they're about to buy from you. If they're buying a book, some online videos, some kind of membership site, whatever that is, people need to know what it is that they are going to buy. But let's take it two steps back before that. The first step I want to take back is this thing called an opt-in page. So this is where if someone has never heard of you, maybe they've, seen you talk on the news, maybe they have met you at a offline physical event, they've typed something in from a business card, they've clicked on your signature link from a forum, they've clicked on your about box in an article site, they've typed in something in Google and ended up on your site. What's the best thing to show someone who doesn't know anything about you? Well, is that a blog? Well, maybe, but you know what you're going to do? When you send someone to a blog, if they haven't heard of you, like if you go to robertplank.com, there's lots of really great stuff there, but there's too many things to click on, and there's lots of stuff to read, but it's like, okay, well, now I've got all these things to read. So you could send them to a sales letter and say buy something, but if they've just heard of you, they might not be ready to buy. So something that I think is better, and it's one of these things that kind of comes and goes, is this thing called an opt-in page, where you have something that you're giving away for free, some kind of quick freebie, a free chapter of your print book, a free video from your membership site, a short report that's based on an idea in your ebook, whatever it is. You want people to join this email opt-in list so that we can start and we can continue to send out these email blasts, these broadcasts, and talk to them anytime that we want. So when we have that new blog post, we can send one email and get thousands of people to look at it and comment on it. When we put out a new product or we want to remind people about an existing product, we send one email and everyone goes out there and gets it. And so at the end of the day, that's what you want, is you want to have a big list. If you've heard of this thing called the money's in the list, it's still true. I think it'll always be true. And what I see out there are people who are just cooking up these new harebrained ideas instead of implementing what works. And what I mean by that is they hear about, there's this brand new social network and I want to start using traffic on that. Or there's a brand new way to flip websites. Or there's a brand new way to market on Amazon Kindle or things like that. And some of these ideas are just that. They're ideas, and they're things that in a month from now, the loophole will be closed, or it turns out it never worked in the first place, and they just took an old thing and marketed it under a new name. But either way, we want to do things that are simple, and we want to build up a list because, if you had to start from scratch every single month and start from $0 in income and go and find new people to maybe look at your product, to buy your product, you'd be working 24 hours a day, if not more, just to get a few $100s. But if we keep this list that's building up, now we have traffic on demand, so that if you've been online for 5 years and you've been marketing your list and you've been getting, say, even 100 new subscribers a day for 5 years, what does that come out to? Like 25,000 subscribers or so. So we want to have a big list, but here's the other thing that people don't tell you about is now that we're building a big list, we want to contact that list. Okay, so it's one thing to have an opt-in page. It's one thing to get someone on your list, but you know what I see most people do is they'll start an email list, right? They'll hear about this thing called a free gift opt-in page. They'll get people on that list, and maybe they'll get 50, 100 people the first couple of weeks. They'll join some giveaways. They'll buy some solo ads. They'll run some Facebook ads. They'll post on forums. They'll put out some articles. They'll contact some affiliates. They'll, even if someone's maybe bought from them before, or if they've networked with someone, they invite them to join this list. All these different things, and maybe they'll get to, let's just say, 1,000 subscribers, which is not huge, but it's still pretty respectable if you're just starting out. And most people, most of your competitors, don't have 1,000 subscribers. Well, what the average person does, and I'm not being mean, but this is what I see, the average person spends a couple of weeks and they're excited and they're enthusiastic and they build this thing up, and then they let 6 months go by without doing anything. And they forget that they were doing this thing called building a list. Why? Because they were doing 35 other things at the same time, even though the list should be the number one priority. So they build up this list and they say, oh yeah, I forgot I had this list. And it's 1,000 people. Now they email to this list, send out one email 6 months later, and well, what happens? Well, they get flooded with notifications saying people reported the email as spam, people unsubscribed, some of those emails bounced, and so let's just say that after the email list of about 1,000 people, they're left with about 500 people left, and even those that are left, they don't really click. They don't really do anything, and they're this person, and I see it happening over and over again. This person is left with this idea that, well, you know what? Maybe list building just doesn't work. Maybe email marketing just doesn't work. I'm going to go off and dabble with social media, or go off and dabble with products and ebooks. And well, the reality is, it's not that list building and email marketing didn't work. It's just that they were doing it wrong. It's kind of like if you got in a car and you didn't know how to drive and you put your foot on the gas pedal and crashed the car. You say, well, I guess, this whole driving a car thing doesn't work. But no, you just didn't follow a couple of easy and simple rules. So basically, what I want for you is to have a different set of problems. I can't remember who said it, but there's some really popular book out there that talks about this idea of you need to get better problems. So if your problem right now is that you can't pay the bills, well, that's one problem. And if you get those bills paid off, then maybe the next problem is figuring out how to manage your assets to pay your taxes better, right? So as you're trading one problem for another, you're never just getting rid of all problems, but you're getting better problems. And so the way I look at a lot of people who are struggling to make it online is they are surviving. They have survival problems, kind of like, if you were living in a cave and you didn't have any food to eat, well, that's a problem of surviving. You're only going to last a couple of days. But then, let's say you have food to eat and your problem now is, well, you just don't have enough money to have the sushi and steak. Well, that's a better problem to have. So the survival problems I'm seeing are people who don't have a website set up, they don't have an internet presence, and you can solve that by going to incomemachine.com right now. That's INCOMEMACHINE.com. So there's survival problems like getting your website set up, and there are luxury problems like your website isn't converting quite as well as you want, or your website is making some money but not quite as much money as we want. So what's the answer? Well, the answer that we're talking about today is to create this email follow-up system so that just on the off chance that someone comes to our site and they just want to know about us, they can sign up and we give them the chance to buy, right? So we're not going to hold them back from buying just yet, but if they don't, if they want to buy right now, they can. But if they're not quite ready, if the timing's not quite right, things like that, then we have them on this email list and we can send them broadcasts when we want. But even if we don't, this thing sends out an email follow-up sequence. So on day 1 they get this email, day 2 that email, day 3 that email, and I know a lot of people are worried, oh my gosh, I've got to write all these things. Well, don't worry, we're going to be talking about that on today's call. So my point of all this, kind of before we get too far off the road, is that your list decays about 1% a day. And I mean, there's really no science to this, but I'm pretty sure that if you don't email your list for, let's just say a month is way too long to go without talking to them, you're going to accelerate that list decay. But even in the best situation, I mean, you might disagree with this, but I know I'm right, is that it's best if you email your subscribers every single day. And that's this thing that I call the worst kept secret in internet marketing. And when you want to make money, you're going to be emailing every day. And then I see people kind of like take a rest, take a break, and they'll go months without until they're hungry again, they're back in survival mode, and they end up having to email every day again and again and again just to get the income built back up. So my thinking is that, well, why not train your list to expect an email from you every day? That way it's just expected. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're worried about your subscribers getting mad at you. You're worried about bombarding people. I don't know why that's the keyword, but that's always what comes up. So the reality is with email is we're all getting bombarded. We're all getting hundreds, if not thousands, of emails every single day. So if you're only emailing once a week, once a month, then you're not going to rise above all that noise. The other thing, too, is that it ticks me off, and I know that I'm not the only one, it ticks me off when that's the only line of thinking. It's like, well, what time of day should I email? How often should I email? How long should an ebook be? All these mechanical questions. And the thing is, it's not just about emailing once a day versus emailing once a week. If Bill Gates said, I will send you a personal email once a day for free on what kind of technology to do today. Or if Warren Buffett sent you an email once a day saying, here's the stocks that I'm trading today, why don't you go and follow what I'm doing? Or if Donald Trump sent you an email once a day saying, here's my best real estate tips. That sounded almost more like Bill Clinton or like Elmer Fudd, I don't know, more than Donald Trump, but you get the point, is that if someone has really good, really solid, really helpful information, I don't care how often that person's emailing me. It's about, is this a waste of time or not? So the other thing that I see is that people are thinking, and I don't know if it's just that they're reading old courses, but they're thinking very like 1999 when it comes to email marketing. Now, what does that mean? It means that, well, even back right around when I started building a list, but when I had other mentors and things like that who built a list, these things were really popular called newsletters, weekly email newsletters. And they went on for maybe 5 or 10 pages, and I actually read a couple of those. And I was in a few actually, but people would send these really long email messages, and they'd have like some tips of the week, they'd have an announcement area, they would say here's article 1, here's an ad, article 2, here's an ad, article 3, quote of the week. It was like this whole basically like a half an hour, 1 hour show, but in written email form. And I mean, I didn't really use them too much when I saw them, and I know people were trying to make it like a monthly magazine, and I know that the draw in a lot of these courses people are teaching were that, well, you only have to do this once a week, once a month, but the problem is the marketplace just didn't want it then, and they definitely don't want it now with stuff like text messaging, social media, Twitter, Facebook, where everyone's attention span is very, very short. So I was lucky that I started building a list pretty late, probably around 2005, which I know is like lifetimes ago in internet years, but I started building this list, and just out of getting tired, I would just send these short emails. I would send emails that were half a page at the most, and so every now and then I'll send an email that might be a page, but I mean, we're talking about short messages, reminders, quick tips, I mean things that are like barely an article, but maybe even shorter than an article. If you have something more to say, then you send them over to a blog post or to a video, because the whole point, and here's I would say the biggest breakthrough so far in this call, the whole point of sending an email is to get people to click on a link in that email. Right? And so what I see are people who are going through the motions, they don't know what they're trying to accomplish, so they just heard sending emails is good, and so people just write all these emails, write this sequence, send them out, and then wonder why they don't make $1 million. Well, because you don't even know what you're trying to do. What we're trying to do is get people on a list, get them to buy if they want to buy right now. If they're not quite ready, if the timing isn't quite right, then we're going to build up this relationship. I know people are worried about that word because it sounds like I have to do a lot of work, but luckily you don't, because there's a thing called an automatic email follow-up sequence. So we're getting them on a list, and we're sending these emails out periodically, every day at first, to get them used to us and convince them that we know what we're talking about, that we're better than most of the alternatives, and that the only choice left, once they're ready, is to buy from us. And it is the weirdest thing because your subscribers actually do get trained. They get trained to open your emails. They get trained to read them. They get trained to click on your links. And even after that, they get trained to, if they're not used to commenting on blogs, that's something to train them for. If they're used to buying low-ticket items or high-ticket items, your whole community, it's the weirdest thing, but they, as a collective, get trained for certain things. And so, kind of switching gears here, when I was first building a list, I wasn't doing it very aggressively like you should be doing. And, I had an opt-in page, but it was really tiny. And this is before people taught things like, forced opt-in pages or squeeze pages, or it might have been maybe a year or two before this became a mainstream thing. And I think this might have even been pre-2005, when I just had a tiny list, and I didn't really consider myself an email marketer, but I did have a sign up form on what I guess is my blog, but it was I guess it was a blog that I coded by hand. It was pre-WordPress days, and one day I opened up my email and I just saw a flood of opt-ins, and I was like, what the heck? And I hit the refresh button, and a minute later another opt-in, a minute later another opt-in, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and literally almost to the second, once a minute, I was getting boom, opt-in, a new person was signing up to my email list, and I was thinking, well, what the heck is going on? I'm not sending any traffic, I'm not paying for any ads right now, what's going on? And I looked at where the traffic was coming from, and the owner of a very popular message board, a forum, linked to my site from his front page. And so he was sending all this traffic, this flood of traffic, and then I went into panic mode. I'm like, well, if I'm getting one opt-in a minute and it's on this tiny little form that no one can find on my site, well, imagine how many people I'm losing. So I really quick went and removed everything else from that page and made the opt-in form really giant and used what I knew to make all the buttons really big and really, really big and have a headline above it. And I was doing all these things that we now know as a squeeze page, but it happened because, well, at first when I knew that there wasn't any traffic, I thought, well, who cares if someone signs up or not? But as soon as traffic started flooding in, I thought, holy crap, I need to go and make these adjustments. And so that's that's a really powerful mindset, is that I know a lot of us are making web pages with this idea that, well, maybe some people will see it, most people won't. But what if today you sent 1 million clicks over to your website, your opt-in page? Well, you'd want that sucker to be optimized as much as possible. So then that leads me to, every now and then I'll go and check eBay and I'll look at, well, what internet marketing seminars and things like that went on maybe 5 years ago that I want to check out, because I'm always about the basics, the fundamentals, things that worked years ago that people have forgotten about that still actually are just as powerful today. So I went, and I can't even remember which seminar it was, but I searched eBay, this auction site, for a couple of different seminars, and I got one. I got the discs and watched them, and this was a few years ago, and they were talking about some real high-level stuff. They were talking about direct mail and upsells and downsells and funnels and one-time offers and all this stuff. And as I was listening to all this, and I was thinking, well, this is a good idea, that's a good idea, but I felt almost kind of guilty, because I thought to myself, well, I'm looking into all this fancy schmancy stuff, but I'm not even making the best use of the people I have. I'm looking into all this traffic stuff, but I'm not even monetizing my existing subscribers as good as I could be. And so what ended up happening was I had this 1 month somewhere along the way. I know I'm telling things as out of order, but at some point I wanted to do better than I was doing. And I want to say that, once again, in the early days of my list building, that I was probably making about $10,000 a month. Let's see. So there was 1 year where I consistently made $10K a month. But this was even before that, where on a good month I'd make $10K. On a bad month, maybe $3,000 or $4,000. Okay, so it was pretty wildly unpredictable income stream. And so I just said, you know what, this month I want to have a month where I make $25,000. And keep in mind that this was before webinars. We had teleseminars, but there weren't. I mean, there wasn't much I could do. I had somewhat of an affiliate program. I had, some traffic coming in, but I didn't have gobs of traffic, and I wasn't selling anything really high ticket. Like, today, if that was the situation, I'd just say, well, let's dig out one of our $1,000 programs and let's just sell 25 copies of that. But back then, I was selling stuff for like $20, $30, so I had to sell tons and tons of volume. But the good news was that I had an email list of thousands of subscribers, and a lot of them had not yet bought from me. So what did I do? Well, I talked to my list. In the beginning of one month, I think it was a February, so it was a really short month, I said, I want to make 25K this month, and normally I make this amount, and so that means I have to make this amount per day. And I know that's kind of a scary thing to tell your list, but no one else was being that honest, being that brutally honest. And then, at that point, I didn't just say, give me money, but I said, well, here's this product that I have, and I want to give you a copy because of this, 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 and this. And I was kind of looking at the sales letter, looking at things I'd left out, and doing a better job of explaining it in my email. And then what I do the next day was say, okay, well, yesterday I made this in sales. Now I have this left in the month. Now I need to make this amount per day, and that daily amount would, rise or fall depending on what it is that I wanted to accomplish. But the end of the story is that I broke that 25K record by a long shot, and then at some point I baselined my minimum per month became 10K, then my minimum became 20, then 30, and up and up and up. But it started by building that not the reputation, but the relationship with my list. And so, first of all, email your list every day and be interesting. And I see people bastardize this, right? They'll email their list and they'll be what I call stuck in the friend zone. They'll say, today, here's a free gift I got for you. I'm going to give you these videos. They're free. You're welcome. The next day, I'm going to give you these resale rights. They're free. You're welcome. The next day, I just bought these rights to this, and I'm just going to sell them, but here you go, here's what's free. And I see these people, and they'll build a list where every day for 30 days, they will give away something for free. And then after a month, they'll say, hey, buy this, and wonder why nobody buys. Well, because you were too nice because you gave away too much stuff. Now, the other extreme for this I see is what we call churn and burn, where on day one, they'll say, click this link to make $200,000 in a day from your underpants. And the next day they'll say, click this link to make $1 million a day from Twitter. The next day, click this link to make $1 million a day from Yelp. And every day they will have a different offer that's just over the top crazy, and they end up alienating their subscribers very quickly. So then I see people who they shoot themselves in the foot, where they'll say, you know what, I'm going to give you things for sale, but I believe in delivering value, so I'm going to email you every day unless you click this special link, and then that will move you to this list where you're only going to get an email once a week. And then if you're on that list, if you don't want that, you can get to this list where you're only going to email once a month. And they make these crazy complicated systems, and they basically train their subscribers to opt out of all their emails. And so here's the thing, is that people are going to unsubscribe. You are going to have that 1% list decay, which means that if you have those 1,000 subscribers and you email them every day, stay in contact, well then tomorrow that's going to be down to 990. The next day it'll be down to 980. Next day it'll be down to 970, and that seems kind of scary, but all you have to do at that point is just add 10 subscribers a day to maintain, or 11 or 15 just to grow from that point. So what we want to do in this whole, I hate to say relationship building sequence, but that's what it is to have a consistent message and to keep sharing things, and to just realize that it takes your subscribers about a week for them to take action. I don't know if you've heard of this really overused cliche that it takes 7 points of contact for people to do anything. Well, that's true. And so, whether you believe that or not, the whole idea is that, okay, 7 times on average. So what that tells me is that, well, let's just say out of those 1,000 subscribers you have, let's say that 500 of them would have bought at some point, right? So if you've maxed out your list, of course not everyone's going to buy from you, but if you've maxed out all your buyers, let's just say out of the 1,000, 500 people eventually will buy from you. So if you talk to them 7 times, you're getting half of those, right? Because we're getting like on average. So if you email 8, 9, 10 times, you'll get more. So what that tells me is that if we have 1,000 subscribers and 500 of those subscribers are, future buyers, then emailing 7 times gets us 250 buyers. So why wouldn't you email 7 times? Why do you just email once and give up and move on to something else and disappear for 2 months? Well, it doesn't work. So what we want to do is just realize that people need to be reminded. We're always distracted. I mean, even if you think about it, you're giving them a message over email. So how do they get that? Well, they have to navigate around all these other people and get distracted by all these other people's offers. So you need to email people 7 times in a week for any action you want them to take. So let's think about what kind of actions we want people to take. Someone comes to us, they sign up in our opt-in page, and then we want them to take the action of grabbing that free report. We want them to grab that free report we've given them in exchange for the opt-in and read it, go through it, get results from it, finish it, so we can easily, I know it doesn't sound like it at first, but we can easily create 7 emails that will walk them through that process. So the first email, let's just say when someone grabs our free gift, we say, can you go back and download that report? Here it is again. Now, the next day you say, well, did you download it? If not, here it is again. Maybe on the third day, you could be talking about, well, did you open it at this point, right? So we can say, well, did you open it? Here's the link one more time, and check out what's on the very first page. Then maybe we can say that by day 4, if we're lucky, maybe they've got to page 5. Maybe they've looked at a couple things and say, here's the number one thing you should get from this report. And maybe give them like the condensed elevator speech or 5-sentence summary of what they should get, what's the best thing in that report. Then maybe for day 5, you say, well, did you get to this halfway point? Maybe for day 6, you say, did you finish it? And maybe day 7, you say, what results did you get from it? And it seems really extreme until you think about how many of those lists have you signed up for? How many things have you claimed for free, and then they never followed up with you? Well, quite a bit. And on the other hand, sites like eBay and Amazon email you every day, every week to make sure that you know about the latest and greatest. So what we want to do, just to be clear, we give away this free gift in exchange for an opt-in, and then after they've opted in, once a day for a week while they're at the hottest, we send them back to that download page where they can click on that link to the report and get it. And at the bottom of that download page, we have a link to something that they can buy. So we're still building a relationship, but they still know that we have the thing they can buy, and if they're ready to buy it, they can get it right now. And then you're thinking, well, okay, that's great, 7 days, and now what? Well, now what we want to do is what we kind of call a mini launch, basically. And I know this whole term, like product launch, it's so misused, and so many people have, claim they invented it. And I mean, I was using product launches 5 years before some of these guys came along, so I think that's a bunch of crap. But the point is that this thing called a launch, it just means more email follow-up. But launch is way more exciting because you think, okay, traffic and money, right? But we want to keep sending messages to these people who have signed up with us because, they signed up for a reason. They want something, and just the fact that they're still staying subscribed and opening our emails means that there's still a chance. There's still hope. And the other thing is just by going through this first 7 days, you've differentiated yourself from everyone else who's building a list. Because what's happened? Well, either they've signed up and they got no emails from some other competitor of yours, or the competitor churned and burned them with 1,000,000 offers and they got blasted and they unsubscribed, or the person was in their friend zone and gave them all this extra stuff, and there was nothing to buy, so they just kind of have that person as their best friend, not as someone they're willing to pay money to. So just by talking to them for a week, you will lose people, but the people that remain are the ones that you actually want on your list anyway. So that's week 1, is just making sure they consume the freebie, and then for week 2, we're just going to, once again, email them every day and transition them from this free report they bought into something that we want them to buy. So let's just say that you had like a course on time management to make something easy. And it had all these modules, and let's say it was like $100. So you could put out a free report that's like the 3 time killers or something like that, or like 3 time boosters, or just like 3 ways to get your life back. And the report could just be 5 pages long, and then it just explains the out of all the possible, ways for time management, productivity, remove interruptions, get focus, get energized. Here are the 3 best things you can do right now for the fastest result, right? So you put that into your report, and heck, you can even just pull out the best chapter of your course or of your book, and that's your free report. But we're making sure throughout that whole first week that they consume that free report. Okay? And some of them will, some of them won't. But the ones, even if they don't, some of them will actually end up buying. Even if they don't, some of them will actually keep reading the emails. And even if they don't, that's why we're having content in the email and saying, like, did you check out tip number 1? Did you check out that thing on page 5 where we talked about this and this and this? So they're still getting the gist of it, even if they don't read every single word that you write. So then we transition them into saying, well, I know that you came here, because you had these problems. I know that you came here to this list because, you're overwhelmed, you're running out of time, because here's a story about this one person I know who might be a lot like you, right? With like all these kids, all the stuff to manage, or they're a workaholic, or they're a lawyer working 100-hour weeks, or they have to commute, or all these different things. And so I want to help you get your problem solved. And so I have a course called Time Management on Crack, and I want you to pay attention to your email this time tomorrow, because we're going to tell you about that. Right? So the first email, we're just getting their attention, just whetting their appetite, and just making them aware that we're still talking. And I hope you enjoyed that freebie, but now we're going to getting the even better stuff. So on the second day, then we relate to their problem. We can say, here's where I was at one point. Is I was stressed, overworked, didn't have any time. Here's what a typical day was like for me, but then here's how the day is for now. And then we say, well, why is that? Well, click on this link and buy my Time Management on Crack course, because this will solve this and this and this. So we sent this email, and we explained the problem, we related to them, and then a little bit of the solution, but we just said, click on the website to find out more. So we left it up to the website to explain this, and we left the rest alone. But we're still not done, because we still haven't contacted them 7 times. We contacted them 7 times to consume that freebie. And you might have gotten some sales from that, but we want to contact them 7 times about this thing that they can and should and will buy. So then on day 3, we send them, so let's say day 2 was the interest email. Day 3, we're going to call that the desire email. Okay, so the first email of that day was attention. We just got them used to that. We told them that there's a free thing coming up, and we gave them a day off. Basically, we just said, well, here is this thing coming up. Check your email tomorrow. Because I do like to hit people with a link every day, but sometimes I'll take a day off and just send them a message and just say, here's this and this, but then no link, and then give them the link the next day. So we have the attention email, the interest email, where then we explain the problem to them. Then we have the desire email, which is where we pretty much send an email talking about our course. At this point, they know what's going on, right? They know we're about time management. They know we know what we're talking about because they went through that free report, and they know we have a course, but some of them still have not clicked on it, and we don't know how much attention people are paying to us, and we don't know what kind of personality they are. That's what always ticks me off about some of these courses on how to launch a product or how to send these email sequences, these launch sequences, is that they assume that people are going to read every single email you send, and that isn't true, and that was never true. So they say, well, on day 19, tell a story about how you've recently uncovered this specific secret. It's like, no, just keep contacting them in different ways so that they'll keep opening your emails, and so they're not used to the same exact thing. I know this guy who would send an email every day with the same exact subject line, an update from me, every day, an update from me, and I unsubscribed really quick because I was bored. So another weird thing about this is that we're mixing things up, and we're being almost in a way entertaining. So I don't know if you followed the 2012 presidential elections, Romney and Barack Obama, and I subscribe to both sides list. Whatever your political leanings are, I don't care. That's not the place for this. But whenever there's, and I bet you that from now this point on, whenever there's a run for president or a re-election, or it doesn't matter what kind it is, you need to subscribe to the top two candidates' email list, because they will email every day with these really weird and kooky subject lines that are actually split tested. And I've split tested my emails too, and out of all the weird things, I know people, they'll say, well, the best subject line to send is one that says help, or the best subject line is one that has their first name in the subject line. And I've tried all kinds of different combinations of things, and it's not like one specific subject line is going to outpull everything else, but what does get the most attention is something weird and crazy. And it's something that's unexpected, that is not super official. I've opened emails that said, like, from Mitt Romney, subject line, hey, or from Barack Obama, subject line, how are you doing? And I was like, what the heck is this? So we want to interrupt their pattern and be different than the usual boring emails we're getting. So that doesn't mean we want to get too crazy and send emails with a subject line saying things like, your payment's been received, or, payments due. We don't want to have anything deceptive like that, but we do want to stand out and be a little kooky and crazy like that. And the other good thing about email marketing is, if you send an email today and it bombs, you still have tomorrow, and the next day, the next day, the next day, and most people give up after one or two emails, and they think that's a product launch. That's not. You need to email all week, and I know that some of you out there might only have one product, or you might not have a product yet, and you need to promote a pitch webinar, which was Robert Plank Show episode 7, how to run a webinar. But we still need to email every day, and you might have like a print book, and still, you can run a email follow-up sequence or a launch, if you want to use a fun word, to promote that book. But we want to email every day. So email 1, attention, where we get them introduced to this. Email 2, interest, where we introduce the problem. Email 3, desire, where we explain what our product is in the actual email, list some bullet points, list some modules, get them to click, and then email number 4, we'll call that action, where we say click the link. And by now they've heard about us, and we say almost nothing other than, if you want to get this blank, click this link. And then for email 5, we'll send them a reminder email saying, oh yeah, did you miss this? Did you get this? Using time management and crack, you get this, 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 and this. And then you just repeat the process. And what you want to have, if you followed me along so far, we've got a 12-day email sequence. And so someone signed up, I guess it could be 11-day because the first email goes at the same day, but whatever. The whole point is they sign up for our free gift, they get emails all day that week making sure that they consume that free gift, and then they get some emails the following week saying, here's this thing that I have for sale. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, that's great, that's 12 days, but now what do I do? Well, then what I like to do personally is I like to wake up in the morning and send out a quick email, and then if it's a good email, then I will save it. I will go into my sent folder and put it into my my follow-up sequence. So just to be sure, I don't want to be leaving anyone out. We use a service called Aweber, that's AWEBER.com, and you can do everything we're talking about here today. Is that you can get an opt-in form to get people to sign up. You can send out broadcasts or blasts and talk to all your subscribers at once. And then you can send out, or you can set up a follow-up sequence where you can say, when someone's on my list on day 1, they get this email, day 2, they get that email, and day 3, they get that other email. And once again, we'll show you, not just tell you, but show you as we set up a whole entire funnel, including a sequence, at incomemachine.com, because so many people out there, they have a blog, opt-in page, even a sales letter, even a membership site, even some traffic, but they don't have this missing piece, which is a follow-up sequence, because some people, sure, are ready to buy from us right now, but the majority of them aren't, and all we have to do, it is really simple, is just to stay in contact. And most of the selling's already been done because they already realize that they know they need this time management or weight loss or real estate course or whatever it is you're selling. So we just need to remind them that we still exist, and then do this thing called I guess you could call it a mini launch. We walk them through these steps of attention, interest, desire, action, and then remind them. And then once you're, for the rest of the month, as because I would say that you probably, just to be on the safe side, need 30 days of just explaining who you are and promote one product, and kind of a blend of that, and go mix it around. But for 30 days, we're emailing them every day for sure, and we're letting them know what it is we're all about. So within the remainder of those 30 days, I'm going to share with you this formula called PAINT, which stands for polls, action, ideas, news, and tips. That's how you stay in touch, this thing called PAINT. So what that means is, well, a good way to get people, engaged and entertained is to ask them a question. And I've asked questions like, well, how long have you been doing this? How did you get started with this industry? I've done things like, I've got a print book out. Reply to me and with your physical mailing address, and I'll send you a copy of the book, and it costs me $7. But I don't care. I just want people to reply to me and start talking. A good benefit too is that with most email clients, when someone replies to your email, you are added to their address book. And what that means is that you are then whitelisted, so that when email comes in, if the email program is looking as far as, well, should I treat them as spam or not, or delete it or put it in junk mail, they say, well, this person's in your contacts because you've replied to them, so this must not be a junk message. So that helps right there. So we can run a poll and ask them a question. We can give them some kind of an assignment to do. And that just might be click a link and go to our sales letter, but you can say, well, a good way to be more productive is to, increase your health. So how about every 2 hours at least, take a walk around the block? And then we can say, okay, well, did you do that yet? And maybe today to do that, or if not, can you do it today or tomorrow? And then talk to them again. So a really easy way to follow up is to just give them some kind of an action or an assignment to do. So then the I in PAINT is the idea. So if you have an idea on how someone can use your course, so if we say, here's an idea, what if you use my time management course to get an extra hour out of the day, and then you were able to spend X number of days with your family, that would add up to Y number of days for the entire year. Or if you could say, what if you went out right here, I just had this idea, if I have this real estate course, and you could take this system and let me just pull up this one real estate website in, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and let me look at these properties, and what if you bought this one right here? It's just to get their idea, just get their brain flowing and get their head spinning with the possibilities. Now, news. This one's real fun, because chances are you've looked up, or at least you pay attention to news in your industry. So if you hear about, well, this new thing happened with real estate. So if there was like a real estate crash, right? For example, you could say, I just heard that, in this one town, the real estate value dropped from this to that. So wouldn't that be a great time to buy a home to flip it, or something like that? Or if with a time management thing, if I said, I just read this study that this and this and this leads to more productivity, and so why don't you do that right now today? So we're just being almost their friends, and we're keeping them informed of things that they're interested in. And then finally, the tips. And this is a little bit related to the ideas, but we can just give them like these short little checklists and say, well, here's something you can do real quick. So not necessarily an idea where it's like this big grand thing, and not necessarily an action email where it's just like one specific action like clicking, but if you had 60 seconds, what could you do? You could, clean your desk, you could empty your trash, you could do 10 push-ups, you can say, here's a tip, here's something you can do in 60 seconds right now to improve the problem, or to decrease the problem and increase the goal you're trying to get to. So that's what the PAINT formula is poll, action, idea, news, tips. Use that along with the attention, interest, desire, action, reminder sequence for selling. Use that in addition to the 7-day pre-sale sequence to walk someone through it. And it's going to be hard for you not to send these emails. And here's where I'm going to give you something I probably shouldn't give you, but the best email we've ever sent is the "Why didn't you buy" email. And what that means is, you had that opt-in page, someone got an email every day for 7 days, sending them back to that download page, and then at some point you started talking to them and transitioning into the sales letter. If you've been emailing them for 2 weeks and they haven't bought, send them an email saying, why didn't you buy? And put this in your exact sequence. Say, I just wanted to follow up with you, a record so that you have not bought time management on crack. I just want to know why not. And if, in case you forgot, here's the link. But if not, reply to this email and tell me why. And this is so powerful because you end up getting a finger on the pulse of your marketplace and realizing what it is that they want and what are the objections that they're having that are stopping them from buying. And sometimes it just might mean your sales letter isn't clear. They just want to know about the guarantee, or they want to have a short report on how to sleep better or how to handle email better. And you can say, well, this one part is covered in here, so here's how you buy it. And I know what you're also thinking. Well, what if someone's on my list and they buy from me and they get this email, and now they're going to be so offended because they bought, and I'm asking them why they didn't buy? Well, a couple different things. Inside of Income Machine, we show you how to set up the rules so that if they buy from you, they're taken off that prospect list. And that's why we say our records show, because, it's never perfect. And they might have signed up from one email address and bought from another. And so even if they did buy and they reply to you, that's still a good thing, because you can then say, well, great, what did you think about it, and turn that into a testimonial that you can then use on your sales letter. So if you want more money and leads and sales and you want to increase that baseline without having to do a bunch of extra work, there's money sitting in your business, in your list, and it's called this follow-up relationship email sequence. And if you're stuck in terms of, I need to have the whole system set up, or I'm stuck on this chicken and the egg thing where, why would I make a follow-up sequence if I'm not building a list? We want to cover all that and more for you at IncomeMachine.com. So go right now there to IncomeMachine.com and get your email follow-up system and everything else set up by Robert and Lance helping you. So the other place I want you to go is robertplankshow.com. That's ROBERTPLANKCH or SHOW, not Robert Plank Chow. That would be like if I was a chef. We want ROBERTPLANKSHOW, robertplankshow.com. And when you click on like our Facebook page, I will read your name on air. We have a huge backlog, so I can't promise it'll be next week, but I will read your name on air at some point. Just like Roland Hess, Peter Castle, Oliver Cook, Micah Jansen, Simon Crabb, Randy Green, Cindy Lopez, Michael Wood, Amy Martin, Judy Pierce, Paul Langham, Dennis Sarfo, John Beek, Linda Schubarth, Karen Good, Chris Gerben, Gabriel Kojo Carew, William David Hannah Poe, and last but certainly not least, Mr. Frederick James. So set up that whole sequence. The money is in the list. This has been how to create an email follow-up system that makes you sales and money on automatic pilot. Go right now to IncomeMachine.com to get your whole funnel and system set up. And join us next week for episode 20, how to quit your day job and become a full-time entrepreneur. It was nice talking to you. Have a wonderful day.